those that tasted the bite of his sword named him the Doom Slayer.
Hello and welcome to the Game Cupboard. My name's Rick and today I'd like to talk about Doom on the PlayStation 4. Now, this is a video that I never thought I'd make, as I'm not really a fan of first-person shooters, and I'm certainly not a fan of the Doom franchise, or at least I wasn't. Apart from a very brief go on the PlayStation 1 port of Doom in the mid-90s, and a couple of hours on Doom 3 on the original Xbox in the mid-2000s, I have no other experience with those particular games at all. To say I had no interest in the 2016 reboot of Doom is an understatement to say the least. Despite thinking it looked good in trailers and seeing it reviewing extremely well, I knew it wasn't a game for me. Then, in 2018, while being massively unemployed, I decided to spend a day binge-watching no-clip documentaries on YouTube, including their spectacular Doom Resurrected series. The game looked fantastic, and it became obvious just how much care and attention had gone into making it. But it was an interview in part 3 with composer Mick Gordon that really made me sit up and take notice. The music was incredible, and seeing the passion and excitement in Mick Gordon as he explained his process and inspirations led me to spending the rest of the day listening to the soundtrack on YouTube and buying the game shortly after. And after spending all day downloading and installing Doom, I played it for the grand total of a mission and a half before turning it off and uninstalling it. I was not very good at that game. To me, Doom was brutally difficult. The Doom Marine moved far too quickly for me to aim properly, and I found myself being constantly overrun by enemies and dying far too often. I could see it was an incredibly well made game, but I should have listened to my instincts from back in 2016. Doom just wasn't the game for me. Fast forward to 2020. The band Bring Me The Horizon released their new song Parasite Eve, and it is an absolute banger. This led me down a rabbit hole looking for details on a new album where I discovered it was actually made in collaboration with Mick Gordon. In a mini documentary series on their YouTube channel, band singer and songwriter Oliver Sykes said he had been spending his time during the COVID-19 lockdown playing Doom Eternal and had fallen in love with the soundtrack. So naturally, this got me spending the rest of the day listening to the soundtrack on YouTube, which, it turns out, is the wrong way to listen to that soundtrack and is a big part as to why Mick Gordon and Bethesda have parted ways. But that's another story for another time. So while listening to the Doom Eternal soundtrack, I was sending random songs to various friends to listen to, and my brother took notice of my new audio obsession and bought me the Doom soundtrack on vinyl for my birthday, which I should be holding here, but I can't because I don't actually have it yet. My brother lives in a different city to me, and because of this lockdown, I haven't seen any of my friends or family since February. Wear a f***ing mask. But it was this gesture and gift from my younger brother that finally prompted me to give Doom one more try. 2 years after my first attempt, and almost 4 years after its initial release. And holy hell am I glad I did. I don't know what changed, but something did, and the gameplay just clicked with me this time. And what I experienced was unlike anything I'd ever played before. Doom, for the uninitiated, is a fast-paced, high-octane action and violence-packed first-person shooter from id Software, creators of series like Wolfenstein, the original Doom, Quake, and most importantly, Commander Keen. It's the reboot/sequel, maybe, to Doom 2 and or Doom 64. I don't know. And the story follows the Doom Marine as he rips and tears his way through hordes of demons across a UAC facility on Mars in a rage-filled mission to stop the deranged Dr. Olivia Pierce from opening a gateway to hell. There is a much deeper story going on in the background in regards to the Doom Marine's origin and the history of the facility and its mission, but not much of that information is given to the player directly. It all becomes available over the course of the game in an extremely detailed in-game dossier that can be read at any time if you ever feel like getting the full story. Which, honestly, you should, because a lot of effort has gone into writing it, and to say it's entertaining is an understatement. But it's the Doom Marine's complete disregard for the story that's one of my favourite aspects of the story. During what should be the first exposition dump of the game, the Marine throws the screen away while getting his mission objective like it's an inconvenience, uninterested in any details past kill all the demons. And several times through the story where he's supposed to simply disable something, he smashes it into oblivion. He bulldozes his way through his objectives with the ferocity and precision of a surgeon performing an operation with a sledgehammer, and I love it. I also love how self-referential the game is. The phrase "rip and tear" appears several times in the game as a line spoken by an NPC, the name of a mission, and the title of a track on Mick Gordon's score. This is itself a reference to the 1996 Doom comic Knee Deep in the Dead, which became a popular meme in the 2000s. UAC spokesperson holograms are littered throughout the facility and activate when the player gets near them. And at first they speak relatively normal corporate fluff, but as the story progresses, the messages become more sinister and demonic, but it's always delivered with brilliantly dry corporate sincerity. It's the same kind of satirical humour you'd find in Paul Verhoeven's best movies, like Starship Troopers and Robocop, and Showgirls. And it just creates this perfectly dark, tongue-in-cheek tone that never wavers.
Untethered cross-dimensional activity is a frequent occurrence outside of the base, so it is recommended that workers buddy up when journeying onto the Martian surface.
The gameplay itself is absolutely superb and incredibly well balanced. The Doom Marine moves at a clip, and it took me a good hour or two to get used to the pace of the game. But once I did, and the combat clicked with me, the game opened into one of the most intensely fun experiences I've had on the PlayStation 4. The combat is a perfect mix of weapon and melee, with one being just as important as the other. Enemies will become staggered once they've taken a certain amount of damage and begin to flash, indicating it's time for you to perform a glory kill. Glory kills are gratuitous finishing moves that see the Doom Marine tear the demons apart with his hands. Depending on which angle you perform a glory kill from, you'll be treated to a different animation, and every glory kill rewards you with health pickups, making them an essential part of combat. There are power-ups to collect, such as haste for increased speed, quad damage for increased damage output, and my personal favourite, Berserk, which sees the Doom Marine put his guns away and run at enemies with his bare hands and makes every attack that lands an instant kill. The Doom Marine's arsenal is big and varied, and each weapon feels distinctly different, with a selection of shotguns and rifles, a chain gun, Gauss cannon, rocket launcher, pistol, and of course, the BFG 9000. Pressing R1 will cycle through the last two weapons you used, but holding R1 brings up a weapon wheel to easily select the murder machine of your choice. Time slows down to the speed of me thinking of a metaphor to describe how slow it gets. So even though the game is essentially paused for a moment, it never actually feels like it, and the sense of speed and momentum is never lost. But probably the most satisfying item in your collection of Deathbringers is the chainsaw. Attacking demons with a chainsaw will cause a gruesome instant kill animation, showering the Doom Marine in much needed ammunition. The chainsaw needs fuel to use, 1, 3 or 5 depending on the size of the demon, with the larger demons needing the most fuel to brutalise. At first, the Doom Marine can only hold a small amount of ammunition and fuel for the chainsaw, but the capacity for both can be increased by finding Argent cells hidden around the levels. In fact, there are a multitude of ways to upgrade the Doom Marine, allowing him to live up to the name given to him by the Hordes of Hell themselves, the Doomslayer.
He cannot be allowed to leave this place. He would ruin everything.
As well as increasing ammo capacity, Argent cells also offer permanent upgrades to health and armour, which make them more than worth the effort of tracking down. There are also runes to find and equip, giving you a range of buffs to play with, such as increasing the amount of ammo enemies drop, increasing effectiveness of equipment, and my personal favourite, the ability to make glory killed enemies drop armour as well as health. Once a rune has been unlocked and equipped, it can be upgraded by meeting certain requirements, making it even more useful than before. Runes are unlocked by finding trial stones hidden throughout the maps and successfully completing the challenges within. Weapons too are fully upgradable, with field drones hidden around each level containing weapon mods which can be used to upgrade your arsenal. Each weapon can carry up to 2 mods, and each mod can be upgraded using weapon upgrade points. Upgrade points are essentially experience points that are earned by completing the various mission challenges in each stage, finding secrets, and by killing enemies to increase your combat rating. Weapon mods are an invaluable addition, and when used correctly are the difference between a quick death or living to fight another day. I found the stun bomb mod for the plasma rifle and the lock-on burst for the rocket launcher make quick work of almost any enemy. And the improvements mod for the super shotgun is absolutely essential as it unlocks the ability to reload quicker. It's also worth noting that the super shotgun is the only weapon that needs to be reloaded. Every other weapon provides a constant stream of death until ammunition runs out. Each mod also has a final upgrade that can't be bought with points, but are instead unlocked through the completion of mastery challenges. Mastery challenges differ from weapon to weapon, but are usually a variation of the theme kill X amount of enemies by doing Y. Some can be pretty tricky to pull off, but it's totally worth it for the extra upgrade. The Doom Marine also has a small selection of extra equipment in the form of frag grenades that deal explosive damage, siphon grenades that damage enemies and partially heal the Marine, and the Holocaster, which acts as a decoy pulling attention away from the Marine, giving the player an advantage. Besides using a hologram once or twice by accident, I mostly stuck to the frag grenades as some enemies like to bunch together, and it is super satisfying watching them explode into viscera. Equipment is on a cooldown timer and has to recharge before it can be used again, but can be improved by upgrading the Marine's Praetor suit, increasing the number of uses a piece of equipment has and speeding up cooldown time. Scattered throughout each level are the corpses of elite guards, the facility's former security personnel. Their suits contain Praetor suit tokens, which allow you to upgrade the Doom Marine's various Praetor suit capabilities, such as environmental resistance, power-up effectiveness, area scanning tech, dexterity, and the aforementioned equipment system. The buzz phrase used to describe the combat in Doom is push forward combat. It doesn't play like a regular FPS. Instead of creeping forward and using cover to defend yourself, the idea is to run toward the enemy, unleashing everything you've got. It rewards aggressive play with constant health and ammo drops and actively punishes you for standing still during combat. Enemies in Doom are brutal, and even the common imp will quickly overpower you if you give them a chance. In a way, the glory kills remind me of the health system from Bloodborne. In that game, when you get hurt, it's possible to gain your health back by quickly attacking the enemy in a short window, and rushing enemies when you're low on health, pulling off a chain of glory kills, and seeing my health recover in Doom gave me a very similar feeling. I love mechanics like this, that reward players for taking risks. It's a great way to keep players involved in the action. A good chunk of Doom's combat revolves around gore nests, grotesque obelisks that once destroyed summon wave upon wave of demons to vanquish. The design of the gore nest arenas, and combat in general, feels a lot closer to something like Quake 3 than Call of Duty. There's a real verticality to the design of the levels, with ramps to run up, ledges to climb, jump pads to boost you to great heights, and portals to transport you to different areas of the arena, all serving the same purpose: to keep you moving. As I said at the beginning of the video, I'm not the biggest FPS fan, but the combat in Doom is just so good. Interestingly enough, there's just as much downtime and exploration as there is combat. On top of the aforementioned Argent cells, elite troops, trial stones, and field drones, there are a whole plethora of secrets to find, including Doomguy figurines, data logs, and classic Doom maps, on top of a whole bunch of colour-coded keycards to keep you moving forward. Icons for each of the collectibles appear on the map when you're close to them, or by finding and downloading the full map from the auto map stations. Levels are absolutely massive, with a huge focus on verticality and exploration. Climbable ledges are highlighted with green LEDs, unless they lead to a secret area. And a few missions in, the Doom Marine unlocks the ability to double jump, so traversing the more complicated maps never became a problem. The map itself is easy enough to understand, and I'm not usually a fan of 3D maps in games. I find them to be messy, overly complicated and difficult to read, but the map in Doom is an exception. Points of interest are labelled clearly, and for the most part I didn't have any issues, but there were a couple of times where the camera would feel like it was stuck on something, or I'd have trouble getting it into the correct position to try and work out a path to an item. It wasn't a big issue though, and I spent a lot of time looking at the map while searching for collectibles. Visually, Doom is great. The mixture of the planet's rocky landscapes and the red glow of its atmosphere, combined with the future industrial design of the facility itself, is an aesthetic that some would argue has been done to death. But here it feels more like deliberate homage than derivative design. Again, referencing the movies of Paul Verhoeven, aesthetically Doom reminds me very much of Total Recall. And that design ideal, combined with the satirical self-referential script, is a perfect combination. There's a great variation of enemies, and the bold colours of the ammo, health and armour pickups make them pop out against the terrain, which makes locating them in the middle of a hectic firefight easy. But the standout element for me, and honestly the reason I gave the game a chance in the first and second place, is the music. Mick Gordon absolutely knocks it out of the park with Doom's soundtrack. He manages to blend several genres and styles into a cacophony that sells everything the game is offering. Whenever tracks like Rip and Tear or BFG Division kicked in, I'd get an instant adrenaline spike and begin annihilating the demon horde with reckless abandon. The music during combat makes you feel unstoppable. It heightens the excitement of these skirmishes and makes you feel like the Doomslayer. Now, I'm probably slightly biased because I am actually a fan of heavy and industrial metal. Honestly, the hardest thing for me was not headbanging. I tend to close my eyes when I do it, and that's not really the kind of thing that you want to do in the middle of a firefight. But the score is so much more than heavy and aggressive fight music. There's a lot of ambient industrial sound that perfectly captures the feeling of isolation and horror within the facility, on the planet's surface, and beyond. Each track building to an uncomfortable crescendo the same way music would be used in a horror movie before a jump scare. But here there is no jump scare. It's just another reminder that you're on your own and hell is coming. If you can't already tell from my frankly embarrassing gushing, I absolutely love Doom. It boasts some of the most intensely satisfying combat I've ever experienced in a game. The design of the world and cheeky satire of the script gives it a real 80s sci-fi action movie vibe. And Mick Gordon's incredible soundtrack is one of the best I've ever heard. I don't think I've ever been more glad to have given a game I initially wrote off a second chance. But have you played it? If you have, what do you think? Let me know in the comments below or over at Twitter at GameCupboardRick. Also, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more videos like this. And finally, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.